You don't need the sky to split in two to realize something's deeply wrong. You don't need 4 horsemen galloping through the clouds or angels sounding trumpets. The apocalypse might not come with fire and thunder. It might unfold silently, like a curtain slowly being drawn, while everyone watches the wrong stage. What if the apocalypse is not a single explosive event, but a long creeping process we've been living through without even realizing it? What if it's not something that will happen, but something that's already in motion, subtle, quiet, and devastating? Like a virus that spreads unnoticed until it's too late to contain. Look around you. Economic systems collapsing under their own weight. Governments shaken by civil unrest. Food shortages. Dead oceans, melting glaciers. Endless wars disguised as peace missions. Mass surveillance becoming the norm. Anxiety, depression, and suicide rates skyrocketing worldwide. And yet, somehow, we act like this is normal. But deep down, we know it isn't. We've been trained to call this progress, to believe that each crisis is isolated, that each catastrophe is just a bump on the road to a better future. But what if these aren't disconnected events? What if they're connected by an invisible thread? A pattern, a plan, a revelation. Most people imagine the apocalypse as a future disaster, meteors, nuclear war, divine punishment. But what if it started decades ago? What if we missed the beginning simply because we weren't looking? Let's go back to 1945, when 2 cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, were vaporized in an instant. It was the moment humanity created the tools to erase itself from the earth. That year, we crossed a line. Not just technologically, but spiritually. We went from being caretakers of the planet to becoming its potential executioners. And since then, something has changed. Every decade that followed brought new warning signs, disguised as progress, wrapped in optimism, and sold to us as salvation. In the 1960s, the Cold War planted fear deep in our collective psyche. The world was divided, and with the push of a single button, everything could end. In the 1970s, the gold standard was abandoned. Suddenly, money was no longer tied to anything real. Economies became smoke and mirrors. Wealth became illusion. In the 1980s, corporations began to gain more power than elected governments. Lobbying, privatization, and international trade deals paved the way for a corporate oligarchy. In the 1990s, globalization promised unity, but instead delivered cultural erasure, economic dependency, and social fragmentation. By the 2000s, after 9/11s, the West traded freedom for security. Governments expanded their power. Surveillance became standard. Fear became a permanent fixture in the global psyche. Now, we live in the digital era, where every message is scanned, every movement tracked, every decision influenced, where attention is the currency, and distraction is the weapon. We carry devices that monitor us more closely than any totalitarian regime could have dreamed of. We sleep with cameras in our rooms. We speak in front of microphones. And we voluntarily offer our thoughts, behaviors, and identities to companies that use them to manipulate us in return. But this is just the surface. There's an undercurrent. Deeper, darker. One that speaks of power without faces. Of control without chains. Of an agenda unfolding behind the noise. In the book of Revelation, the word apocalypse doesn't actually mean destruction. It means unveiling. A moment when hidden things are finally exposed. What if this is that moment? And what if we're not prepared for what's being revealed? Some believe that the apocalypse was foretold not only by the Bible, but by many ancient cultures. The Mayans, the Hopi, the Sumerians. Prophets from different ages and continents spoke of a time when humanity would face a test, not from the heavens, but from within. A test of its spirit, its values, its will to survive. Nostradamus wrote of 3 antichrists who would bring humanity to its knees. Some claim to have already come. The third, he may not be a man at all, but a machine, or worse, a system. A machine that doesn't look like a robot, but like a code, an algorithm, a network of influence with no center, no conscience, no remorse. Evil no longer comes with horns and fire. It comes with user-friendly interfaces, digital terms and conditions. smiling PR campaigns, and subtle nudges toward compliance. Meanwhile, the planet responds, not with divine wrath, but with ecological collapse. Forests burn, oceans acidify, polar ice vanishes, entire species disappear in silence. In 2020, a virus shut down the entire world. Supply chains snapped. Fear spread faster than any infection. We called it unprecedented. But in truth, it was a stress test, and the system passed. It learned how far it could go. We've seen signs in the skies, eclipses, solar flares, asteroids narrowly missing Earth. We've seen storms that destroy entire regions, earthquakes striking at the exact moment of political unrest. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe the universe speaks in symbols, and we just forgot how to read them. And then there's Agenda 2030, presented as a noble path to sustainability. Some believe it hides the blueprint for a new world order. A digital ID for every citizen, centralized digital currencies, mass biometric databases, total information awareness, surveillance embedded into every layer of life, from your fridge to your phone to your body. They call it progress. But it smells like prison while you scroll through cat videos and influencer drama. The architecture of global control is being built, code by code, law by law, silently and systematically. One day, you'll wake up and realize you're not free to move, to buy, to speak, unless the system says so. But perhaps the most chilling prophecy is the mark of the beast. For centuries, it's been associated with physical implants, tattoos, barcodes. But maybe it's something else. Maybe the true mark isn't something you get, but something you become. Obedient, numb, disconnected. A willing cog in a machine that no longer sees you as human. That's the real danger. Not just that we're being controlled, but that we're learning to love it. That we trade truth for comfort, freedom for convenience, spirit for screens. The apocalypse isn't the end, it's the reveal. The question is, when the truth finally stands before you, will you recognize it, or will you turn away? Maybe the true battle isn't physical. Maybe it's spiritual, psychological. Maybe the real war is for your soul. Your capacity to see the bigger picture, to feel something real, to resist the sleep. We've been lulled into slumber, taught to laugh at prophecy, conditioned to call truth conspiracy. But what if the ones we call paranoid were the first to wake up? The curtain is falling. The final act is about to begin. But not all endings are disasters. Some are transitions, so don't be afraid, be aware. Don't run from the darkness, illuminate it, get ready, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Because the apocalypse isn't coming. The apocalypse has already begun.